Hey guys. Hey Dylan. Hey Brandon. So today I'll be going over kind of picking a college and the different factors that go into picking a college. So kind of the schedule today. If my computer will work for me. So picking a college, going over the stream agenda, just 2 more streams left in a couple weeks, introductions, different factors that go into picking a college. I kind of want you guys to knock down for maybe a lot of people and as a lot of different factors, and then as the stream goes on, I'm hoping that you guys will have more less factors that you're interested in, and then kind of next steps, what you should do next, especially rising seniors and juniors as well. And then if you guys have any questions anytime, feel free to just ask questions. I'm cool with it. I usually make things really broad, but if you have any questions about my experience, I can talk about that too. I just don't want these streams to just be about me talking about my life. So stream schedule, and not next week, but the week after on Monday, I'll be going over the coalition and common applications, how to fill those out, because not just the personal information and stuff, but extracurriculars, how you should word everything, because it's kind of very specific. You don't want to sound not confident really when you're filling those out. And then Wednesday will be mainly college essays, what that should be about, because that's a huge part of your application. And then interviews, visits, orientation, all those kinds of things that are important. Let's see here. So a little about me, most of you know this, and Dylan knows this. So first year advertising major at UF with a minor in nonprofit organizational leadership. I graduated from FLVS a couple months ago. I was in a lot of extracurriculars and took APs and DE classes, applied to 8 colleges and went through the Ivy League process. And at Fiveable, my roles are a head TA, content creator, and I'm on the social media team. And I've been with Fiveable for about going on 7 months now, or 6 months, during our last round of interns. So it's a little bit about me and my graduation photos. They're awful. So of course, have to plug this every time. If you're not following Fiveable, make sure that you are across our social media so you get updates on different streams. There's a lot of Camp Fiveable streams going on this summer, so if you're interested in any topic, making sure that you know when those are going on is important. So Twitter, Instagram, YouTube as well, I think Fiveable. So make sure that you're subscribing, following everything, being engaged with our content. So I think I ended up with 17, possibly. Apparently I couldn't get to 20, but factors for picking a college, which is a lot. And some of these will really not be important to you, and some of them very much will. And I'll be going over every single one a little bit more in depth, just little things to think about. So majors, thinking about your major, if they offer a lot of different majors, so kind of their course offerings alongside that, the location of the school, the size of the school, if study abroad is important to you, study abroad opportunities, student involvement, including extracurriculars and, Greek life and all that kind of stuff. Financial aid and cost, which is probably going to be a huge factor for you guys, especially if you're interested in going out of state. That's something that you may want to be one of your main factors that you look at. Research opportunities. So I didn't really know about research before I went to a lot of college sessions at UF, but UF offers a lot of research opportunities. So if you're interested in doing research, undergrad research, that's something to look into. Dorms, college living, what's nearby. And this kind of correlates to location too, because if you want to be in a big city like Orlando with a lot of different things going on, or if you kind of want that smaller city, kind of town feeling. Diversity, kind of what their student body looks like. Graduation rate, of course, how many people are actually graduating in 4 years. And if they're not graduating in 4 years, sometimes that means grad school. So how many people are going on to grad school, and how many people are just can't find jobs afterwards. And there brings us to the next one, employment rate, how many people are getting jobs after graduation. That's a very important factor that a lot of people don't really think about, but obviously the point of college is to kind of afterwards get a job. So if no one's getting jobs after graduation, you may want to think about that. Athletics. And for athletics, this is something beyond just like if you don't play a sport, you know, like beyond what they offer, more athletics in a way of spirit for the college and being able to go to football games and everyone like rally for that, kind of more that part of it. But also if you care about athletics and what they offer. Ranking name stats. I put this on there here because although it shouldn't matter, we all know it does, because we look at the name of a college, and if someone says that they're going to a college that you've never heard of before, usually we're like, where even is that? But something to consider if that's important to you, the name of the college. And then student faculty ratio. So a lot of people want like a smaller field. I'll talk about all these in a minute more in depth, but like most of the time, your gen ed classes are going to be like 700 kids at a big school, but then you go into your major classes and there's like 25 kids. So looking at your student to faculty ratio, if you really want like smaller classrooms, or if you just don't care, that may not be a factor you need to look at. Graduate school options, if you want to stay at that school for graduate school, or if you want to go somewhere else. But kind of looking at what they offer for graduate school. Party life, if this is important to you, it's not super important to me, so I can't talk too much on it, but some people, party life is very important to them, and like Greek life and everything. And then alumni network. So you may want a very like connected alumni network, not only so that the alumni can help you when you're like undergrad, but so that you can be connected to your class when you're an alumni eventually, although that may be in a little bit of time. Let's see. Dylan, you're amazing. Is there a difference between applying to a state school like UF? Go Gators. Go Gators. Chomp chomp. And an Ivy like Harvard, since he said there were through the Ivy League process. Ivy League process, mainly interviewing, is different. State schools, they're not going to have you like, they're mainly public, right? So they're, number one, financial aid's different. Private schools are going to give you way more financial aid because their costs are way higher. So if you look up like MIT tuition, obviously that's going to be high, not only because it's MIT, but also because it's a private school. And then schools like that are going to interview you if you get to that point in interviewing. So Ivy League process, a lot of it was like you go through your application, you don't know if you did well or not, and then you may get an interview or you may not. But I didn't know anyone else who applied to Dartmouth, so I didn't know who didn't get one and who did. I had to kind of like look up how many people they give like interviews to, and I kind of had to go off of that. So state schools, the financial aid part is going to be different, and then you won't have to like interview at like a state school. Some people were wondering if like every school wants you to interview. No, most schools don't, unless you're an Ivy or, like I've said, like Duke, Emory, like probably, I'm sure MIT does too, Stanford, USC, schools like that. Then you'll have to interview for them and do an alumni interview, which again, bringing back to the alumni, kind of tying that together. If you end up wanting to be part of that for your school and interviewing students, which I personally think would be super cool to do. And then they relay that information back to the college, which can be kind of scary though. So doing my interview and she's like writing down what I'm saying as I say it, like this is kind of petrifying a little bit, but it's fine. Okay, so a little bit more in depth with this kind of stuff, and like Dylan did, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. So what to look at when researching. So going, more in depth. Majors. If you know exactly what you want to major in, then you may want to look at what schools are the best for that major, or what are the best in-state schools, or just schools in general for your particular major. Before, like my major and minor has changed so much, that's why I never really went off of that. That's mainly for people that are like, oh, I want to go pre-med and I know like I have to do this path. Some people are very specific about their major. and maybe their major isn't offered everywhere. Like FSU has like a circus major. So if you want to do something very like specialized, like you have to look at colleges for that. But like I was applying as like a math major, and every school except for one that I applied to had a math major, so I never really had to worry about if they had my major. It may just be the opportunities that are given for my major. So a big thing is probably how much funding is going into your particular college. Like for advertising, I'm in the College of Journalism and Communications. So how much money are they giving and opportunities are they giving my college compared to the College of Engineering or the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences? So kind of comparing what their focus is at that college. And then if you want to minor in something, maybe looking at their minor offerings as well. But like I said last time, you don't really declare that stuff right off the bat, so you have time to figure it out. But if that's important to you, you want to stick with one major, looking at which colleges are best for that major. Or if you have no idea what you want to do, then looking at kind of if they offer a lot of different majors that you'd be interested in. Location. So this is a big thing too. If you want to stay close to home, you want a medium distance, you want in-state, out-of-state. Personally, I didn't want to be 5 minutes away from my parents, but I realized that out-of-state wasn't financially kind of feasible, but I just wanted them to be able to have to call me and say, hey, we're coming to visit you. And that was more my goal, rather than like, hey, we're going to surprise you. So I think it's good to kind of get out of like your parents' house and kind of go a little bit. But if you're not comfortable going out of state, that's fine. I don't think going in state or going out of state, like going out of state's better than going in state. Like neither one's better than the other. If there's a good school in your state, stay in state. Like you save money. Like, you know, so don't like think that people that go stay in state are like losers or like you going out of state is better than going in state. It's not at all. It's just kind of what fits you the best, I would say. So also if you want this school to be in like a small town or a large city, like I said, if you wanted Orlando compared to like my school's in Gainesville, the only thing in Gainesville really is UF. Like the only reason Gainesville is a thing is because UF is there. So then everyone else came. But a lot of people want to be in Orlando or like Miami, or I'm just using Florida as an example because I live here. But some people want that really like large, city. And I thought I wanted that too. But for me, the college itself mattered more than, the exact location of it. But those are two parts of location that you kind of want to look into, how far away it is from home. Whether you want it, some people I know want to be like with their family all the time. Like their family is their number one thing. So they want to be right next to their family. So they go to community college or they go to a very local college. Kind of just depends on you, your comfort level, and the college in general. And then kind of like size as well, small, medium, large school. Again, maybe a large school offers a lot more majors. A small school might be technical. I toured a college that had 5 majors. And I was like, oh, if they had my major, I would go here. But then you think about how many opportunities a large school will have, how much more pride a large school has compared to maybe a smaller school. So again, looking at those different things. If you don't care at all, another thing. Study abroad. This may not be, again, your like reason for choosing a school, but a lot of people very much want to study abroad, something that they're interested in. I had a few questions about it on Monday. How many opportunities your school has for study abroad, what their study abroad program looks like, what their study abroad like offices look like, if they have a lot of different connections with different colleges. My college, you don't have to go directly through us. Like you can go, we allow you to study abroad at different countries that are through different schools. We have a lot of different opportunities for you to study abroad in some way, even if it's not like study abroad, where you're still getting financial aid, but you're going there for a little bit. Like there's just so many different things. If that's important to you, which I would say definitely think about it, just as a side conversation, definitely think about studying abroad. Internationalizing your degree looks really good, and you get a lot of experience with working with different people. So it's never a bad thing. Student involvement. This will probably be very important to all of you. Depends on exactly what student involvement you're interested in. This could be Greek life for some people. This could be student organizations, volunteer opportunities, sports, different events, career opportunities like career fairs, things like that. Freshman week, like orientation, different things. Like how many or opportunities and organizations are there for students to get involved? I think my school's like 600 or 700 or something like that. That's how many like student organizations we have. And then obviously sports are a big deal for us. So kind of gauging what you want. And at a bigger school, they're going to have more opportunities for student involvement. You're going to have way more like student clubs. You're going to have way more volunteer opportunities. Probably more sports, but of course that depends on your location too. So, okay, what exactly separates a liberal arts college and other college universities? Liberal arts colleges, it's not like arts, it's more about getting more of a well-rounded education in the way that like it's not technical school. Technical school, you would be like, I'm going to be an engineer, I'm going to the school for that. And everything's very specialized for that. At the technical schools I looked at, it was like you're immediately going into intro to civil engineering. It's very like specific. Liberal arts colleges aren't bad. It may just be what you're looking for. It's going to take a more broad approach to education. So you're going to be taking, like, I don't even know, example, if I was an advertising major, math major, I won't just be taking math classes. I'll be taking a little bit of everything to kind of get like a broad education, if that makes sense, rather than just my math classes and things that relate to it. They want you to be able to say, oh, well, I'm doing research mixing, for example, okay, I'm going to keep using my school as an example, but some people were like pre-med and they did something on how, and they like minored in music theory, and they would pull their music theory minor and their pre-med and have a research like program about how like music helps people when they're going through X, Y, and Z. Like they pulled very specific things to a more broad thing. So liberal arts colleges are kind of like that. They're taking your major and making sure that you have expertise in more than just that, making sure that you can deal with humanities and like English and whatever is kind of your opposite. So if you want more like technical help, like technical schools, but if you kind of want a broad view, then liberal arts colleges. But it's not like liberal arts as in like arts. It's not like that. What to look at when researching. Continued, I have a couple. Financial aid and cost. This is a big thing for people. So if it's out of state or a private school that you couldn't attend, I can't talk, without financial aid assistance. So like I told another girl before, if you're going out of state or you're going to a private school, you're going to get funding. Like you're going to get a merit scholarship. If you get in, you're getting a merit scholarship. And usually they try to put that to what an in-state cost would be. Sometimes it doesn't always match that. Sometimes it's a little bit more. Sometimes it's a little bit less. But if you look up, again, MIT, like tuition cost, you would not be paying that. Like they would give you some sort of scholarship. Any private school I applied to, any out-of-state school I applied to, they gave me some sort of financial aid. And it was, I think the minimum amount of financial aid I received from a college, one of those two, was 70 grand. And the highest I received was like 150 grand. So like, that's a lot of money when you break it down. And so they're trying to bring that outrageous cost back down to like in-state. So it looks like a lot, but you won't be paying that much. Also, there's a lot of other factors other than just tuition. Like actually look at your colleges, their comprehensive costs. Housing, that's gonna be more expensive if it's in a larger, like Orlando again. Their housing is more expensive than mine is in Gainesville. So housing, food, books, that kind of thing. That all is not included in like tuition costs. So, and at my college, like, and this goes for like every college, most of the time, all those collective costs that aren't tuition are actually more than tuition. So think about that too. But for tuition wise, out of state private schools, you'll get money in some capacity. And then let's see, research programs and opportunities. So how large is the research program? And was there research focused on? If that's something important to you. Dorms, college living. If you want kind of like larger dorms or apartments, that's going to be more colleges that don't have a lot of students. So colleges that are smaller may have the opportunity to give freshmen apartments, whereas larger schools don't really have that capacity. Everyone's living traditional. Or if you do want a traditional room, there's a lot of people I've met at my college that like just want a traditional living. Like they want to live in a traditional dorm with like someone stacked on top of them. And that's what they want. So kind of if that's important to you, what's nearby, even like things like food or something like that. Diversity, kind of talked about that before. The makeup of the previous incoming class would be the best way to indicate diversity. Usually they release that information. So if that's important to you, seeing people that are like you at college or not like you and kind of like meeting new people, different kinds of people, I'd say, kind of the same with internationalizing your degree. That may be something you want to look at. Graduation rates, again, are students graduating in 4 years? Are they dropping out or are they going to grad school? Sometimes that graduation rate is low because this, like, bottom line is that some of the reason it's low sometimes is because some people are going off to grad school. And so they technically didn't graduate in 4 years, but they're going to graduate in like the next year or two. So jobs after graduation is the college's like statistics on students. They obtain a job after graduation. If no one's getting jobs, then that's something that you want to look at. And sometimes that corresponds with the name of the college that I'm about to talk about. So sometimes how many, obviously if it's Harvard, you're going to have a job after graduation, like you're going to be guaranteed, pretty much, as long as you didn't major in something probably really weird, but you're going to have a job. So sometimes rankings and graduation rate and things like that kind of all correspond, especially graduation rate too, because if it's a really hard college, then maybe people are dropping out. I know MIT, at least for your first semester, your classes are pass-fail because it's really difficult and they want you to be able to transition well. So those kinds of things. Athletics, if you want a student body that has pride for their athletic teams, or a college that offers a lot of different opportunities to be involved in sports, that kind of thing. Again, rankings and name. This is something that we often look at more so than we should. But if it's really important to you, like US News and like Forbes and stuff like that, they have lists for public universities, private universities, things like that. Of course, private universities, like the list of top schools, is primarily going to be like your Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Dartmouth, Cornell, your 8 Ivies are going to be at the top of that list, of course. So, okay, how can one tell if a low job rate means people aren't getting jobs or people are just going to grad school? So the graduation rate is what might be low. So if a graduation rate is 80% at a school, that doesn't mean that only 80% are graduating. Some of them are doing like a master's program in 5 years. So kind of don't look at the rate as set in stone. Look at like an 80% rate as really maybe 90%. So kind of gauge that upwards. Employment is going to be pretty spot on. They try, like, usually when you graduate, like they'll have you in so many different ways. You'll be filling out different surveys about like where you're going off to, if you studied abroad, things like that, because they need them obviously for statistics like that for students to look at. So graduation rate, don't look at it at so set in stone. Look at like add a little bit, maybe not 10%, but it's not as low probably as you think it is, I would say. A lot of those students probably, like how you would, are going off to grad school. most people want to go off to grad school afterwards, especially if it's a name college. Okay, so rankings name. If the rankings and the weight of the name of the college is very important to you, something to look at. I did not know the ranking of my college until after I got in, and it said like we're a top 10 public university. And I was like, oh, cool, okay. So sometimes it just works out, but some people want to go to Ivy. Like people that want to go Ivies want to go to Ivies because of the name, obviously. You're like guaranteed a job afterwards. But of course, financial aid. I would recommend, just in general, by the way, either staying in state or going to a school that gives you pretty good financial aid, at least for your bachelor's, and then you can always transfer, or apply to an Ivy for grad school. Student to faculty ratio, if you want like smaller classes with smaller ratios, or if you don't mind those larger classes, of course, there's always open office hours for every class. So if you feel like you're like you and your professor don't really have a close like relationship, or you want them to like know you out of the crowd, you can always go to office hours and be like, hey, this is me, X, Y, and Z, ask them questions one-on-one, that kind of deal. And then you'll actually have that relationship with them. And then like at bigger university, like I said, like mine, you can have gen ed classes that are like 700 kids or 500 kids. It's gonna be a lot of people because everyone has to mainly take those classes. Of course, you guys are AP students. You don't worry about it as much. You guys are transferring in with a lot of credit. I'm sure there's not like anyone at my school that goes to our school that like doesn't transfer in with something. Most of the time it's like at least like 15 credit hours you're transferring in with. I had like 48. You're going to have something that kind of offsets those gen ed classes, so maybe you won't have as many of those classes. And you can also take them online. I know some people are afraid of that, but don't be. A lot of classes are either going hybrid or they're going completely online. A lot of like gen eds, especially in college, are going completely online because it's easier to do that than have 700 kids in a room. So graduate school, do you want that school to have graduate options, or again, do you want to transfer to an Ivy or a higher university or anything like that? So like I said, some schools have graduate programs. You graduate with your bachelor's and your master's in 5 years. So that might be something that you want to look at. And maybe how many people are doing that, what their graduate school looks like, not just the makeup of the class, but how many students are actually staying there for grad school. And then party life. Another thing with party life, like Greek life, if that's important to you. Hopefully it won't be important to you as a freshman, but if that's an important factor for you, looking into that kind of stuff. Usually larger schools are party schools, but then again, you have like MIT and things like that. They're somewhat smaller, but very much party schools. And then alumni network, like I said, do you want a strong network of alumni to connect with as an undergrad and grad, and like post-grad, if you want like a strong alumni network with the people that you graduated with. Some things that some people don't think about until they actually get to college. I never thought about like an alumni network. Didn't really think about that being a thing. And that's no problem, Sam. If you have any questions, like you can hit ask a question. It doesn't have to be pertaining to this particular topic or anything like that. Any question that you have on like college apps or anything like that is fine. Feel free to ask. So kind of keep in mind these kind of topics. Some of them, like I said, you may be like, oh, I don't care about that. I don't care about that. That's perfectly fine. That may be something that a lot of people are, sorry, I heard your question. Some people like just look at different factors. What's important to one person may not be important at all to someone else. So kind of do what's best for you. Don't just go somewhere because your best friend's going. Although I'm going to make you go to UF. Dylan, that doesn't apply to you. You have to go to UF. But typically, go somewhere that you want to go. Go Gators, chomp chomp. Baby Gator. Okay, I'll start at the bottom here. Do you think it's worth it to go to a lesser graduate school that you don't like as much so you can go to medical school? If medical school is where you want to go and a particular college is the only way that offers it, then yes. Like if that's your only like path, then yes, I would. You can always later on, like I said, like transfer somewhere that's better, quote unquote, if there's another school that you'd rather go to. Something with medical school, at least at my school, they told us, I'm not going pre-med, but they talked about pre-med a lot because a lot of people at my school are pre-med. They talked about like health sciences, bio, chem, things like that. They don't care what your major is going pre-med. So if you're like, oh, this school doesn't have this particular major, if I want to go pre-med, like typically they don't care. Probably as long as you're not like a history major trying to go pre-med, then that would be like, that doesn't make sense. But like between different majors, they don't really care as long as your GPA, kind of class rank, things like those factors. That's for going pre-med. But if there's like, again, and we always relate things back to UF. We have a big med school program. A lot of people may not want to stay in state, but they go to us because we have vet school and med schools that are established and kind of, I mean, good. So even though people kind of want to go out of state and go to those IVs or go somewhere else, we have those programs. So you may want to go to a lesser undergrad school. I mean, if you really don't like it, don't go there. There's always other options. If you don't like one school, there's going to be a school that fits you. But if that's the path you want to take, then yes. And so kind of like BS MD programs. Okay, so what I think you're asking about is like the 5-year thing. Personally, I don't know. If you really like the school that you're at, then I would recommend those programs. But for me personally, like when I saw my Dartmouth rejection, I was like, I never thought I was getting into Dartmouth. I wasn't like the kid thinking I was going to get into Harvard. But I was like, okay, cool, great. I can work even harder undergrad, so I go there for grad school. So it's kind of, if you are going to that lesser school, maybe don't do those combined programs of getting like your master's with your bachelor's. But if you really like where you're going for undergrad, then continue for grad, if that makes sense. But if you're like, oh, going to a school that you don't like as much, don't stick around there for, grad school or medical school or something like that. Like you can transfer. Even like AA, getting your AA through a community college or something like that first. There's so many different paths to take. But if you like your college, those combined programs are really great. If you see yourself going somewhere else or going out of state, or you just want that degree, but you don't want to live there for the rest of your life, you want to go to California, and that's where you want to live your life, then you may want to transfer, and go to, I don't know, a school that's better. I'm not going to say like Stanford or something like that, but like if that's where you want to go eventually, then that's what I'd say. So kind of different factors. Pick what's kind of like picking your top kind of factors are going to be the most important things for indicators for college. And then kind of the next steps I would say are research. So using those things that are really important to you to help research schools. And then keep everything, I'm sure you guys are, but I would keep everything organized and list the schools out that you're interested in. And probably know what factors you like about the school, or maybe I made pros and cons lists because I had no idea where I wanted to go to college. So I was like organizing a bunch of different things. So making a list, once you kind of research what you want, you may even want to research by each factor, like location and major, and then different things, But usually if you're picking like top 3 things, a college has all three. If you're saying all 17, your college is probably not going to have all 17 that fit your needs. But making that list, research, I would say research a lot of schools and then make a more condensed list. Some people apply to like 15 schools. Some people apply to 2 schools, 1 school. It's just all about you. And then organizing them, like safety. What's a safety school? I forget what it's called, but like your direct school. And then like what's reach. So do apply to some safeties. Don't just think that you don't need a safety because you're above everything. So apply to some safeties, but you don't need like 5 safeties. And then schools that you could see yourself getting into, and then reach schools. And reach schools might be something not super competitive or something less competitive that you're just kind of like a little insecure, unsure about. And then once you get kind of your broad list of schools, like knock the list down based off of a couple different factors, off of specific interests, and those factors that we talked about before. So building off of that, like the bottom right, if you can't afford to apply to all 8 Ivies, then don't put them all on your list. Like I had to choose between, I think, NYU and Dartmouth, like because they cost like $90 for applications, and I couldn't pay $90 to apply to all 8 Ivy Leagues. Like some people can, some people get, application waivers. I didn't, I couldn't do that. So just know like application costs can be like $90 and match. There you go. Dylan, you're on top of it. I'm not. I forgot what it was called. I did not know what it was called for like all of senior year match schools. There you go. Safety, match, reach, on top of it. So yeah, think somewhat realistically. I'm always for people shooting high and aiming high, but if you can't afford all 8 Ivy Leagues or all, a bunch of like 8 schools that are out of state, it's not just the Ivy Leagues that are a lot of money. I applied to like UMass Boston, that was like $70. I think BU was like 85 or 90. Florida schools are cheap. So go Gators. All my Florida schools were like, I think the most expensive was UF at $35. The rest were either free or $30. But a lot like up north, as you probably know, but up north, a lot of them are like up to like $90. Stanford, USC, same deal. Creating your coalition and common application accounts. So upcoming stream, we'll be going over the common app and coalition app, how to fill those out. So it'll be just easier if you make your accounts sometime between now and then, so that going over those applications will be easier. And then making a general list of the colleges by then, so you can kind of see, some of them don't add specific things into those common and coalition apps until later on, but I'll kind of show the cost of the ones I applied to. But getting a good general list would be good. You'll be able to see like application costs, when things start, when their deadlines are, early admission, early decision, or early action, early decision, regular decision. BU had early action too. There's so many different deadlines, and getting everything in is the stressful part of applications, because you have teacher recs, transcripts that you have to send in, AP scores. Your teacher recs go through the Khan app and Coalition app. They don't go to you. You can't upload them. So you have to constantly pester a teacher to make sure that they put it into your common application. Meanwhile, they're trying to fill out like 8 other kids' common applications. So not too fun. But making sure that you have to like stand up on your own stuff. Like I said last time, you have to make the list of colleges that you want. You have to kind of knock that down. Your parents and stuff can help you, but when it comes to like organizing, you're going to have to make sure that you send your SAT, ACT scores, that you send your transcript, that you send, if you dual enroll, you have to send your dual enrollment transcript. Sometimes it's stressful. There's a lot of different factors, and that's the stressful part about applications. It's not filling out like hi, my name's blank, or like, yeah, I want to go to the school, or even the essay sometimes. I sat down and wrote like 5, 6 of my college essays, like specific college essays, in like a couple hours. That part isn't bad. It's just making sure that they received your scores, they received your transcript. And sometimes they lose your stuff, which is not fun either. And you pay College Board to like send it to them. Also, you don't need to send your AP scores if you don't want to. Just putting that out there. You have to send those if you pick your college. You'll need those so that they can place you in classes correctly, like before the school year starts, your college semester. But if there's something that you also don't want them to know, like you don't have to send them all your scores. If you failed one, like you don't have to include that. Like you can just kind of act like it kind of never happened. Like honestly, you don't have to include it. Fill out the personal information section. Filling out like the personal information sections, the family history, the like educational history, all those kinds of things will make it just easier, because obviously I don't know your guys' personal information sections. Like I can't fill that kind of stuff out for you. So it'll just make it a lot easier when we go through the Coalition of Common Apps. And yeah, so you guys have been asking questions. There's my contact information. A few of you have also like found me on social media. So you guys can do that. Okay, how much will a bad AP score impact your application? I would say not at all. Like I would omit it completely. I would still give them any passing scores, but if you won't not pass one, Dylan. Like I can't even with you right now. But like if any of you like failed one, you did not. If you failed one, number one, like I'll give you money because that's not gonna happen. But especially with Fiveable. But if you failed one, don't like just omit it. Like people think that they have to send them all their SAT scores, all their ACT scores, all their attempts. I didn't. I took the SAT 3 times, only sent my one to them. Like it's different if you equate scores on that level, but like one you did better in reading and one you did better in math, I can't think. And they do equate your scores to be the top, combine your scores to be the top. But like AP scores, if you failed A push, or let's see, what did you take? AP Chem. If you failed AP Chem, if you failed AP Chem, just omit it. I had to think about it. If you failed AP Chem, just like omit it completely. Like they don't have to know that. And you never have to tell them. It's a great thing. You will on your Coalition Common application say like AP Chem, hopefully 3, 4, or 5. But again, omit anything that's like a 1 or a 2. Not that like you're never gonna have to deal with that, Dylan. That's like not even a question. You'll get a 5. So question time. Like I said, if some of you have found me on like Instagram and stuff like that, that's cool too. If you DM me or something like that, or some of you have like emailed me with questions, that's fine too. And in general in the streams, if you guys have any like financial aid questions, any questions at all, like feel free to ask. Last thing, of course, making sure you're on top of the different Fiveable social media sites. So Twitter, Instagram, follow us at Fiveable, subscribe on YouTube to know when these streams are happening. And otherwise, I'll wrap up today's stream. Thanks, Dylan, for the questions, even though you're never gonna fail. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for coming, and